This Father's Day, we honor the men who lead with love, strength, and sacrifice. Join us for this powerful tribute to the fathers shaping homes, guiding generations, and holding the American family together. A Father's Legacy with your host, Beau Davidson, starts right now.
Welcome to A Father's Legacy, a Father's Day special for Real America's Voice. I'm your host, Beau Davidson. Papa, Dad, Daddy, Pa. These are all the words we use for our fathers. They can be everything from our life guide, to our spiritual leader, to our coach, to our friend and confidant. And for many, they can also be entirely absent. Fathers are not perfect, and there are many fathers who never wanted to be fathers, or who have simply given up on their roles and responsibilities. What a father should do, however, is rear his children to be the best they can possibly be. And from the beginning of time, fathers have had to hunt, provide, guide, and protect. We also look to our fathers for wisdom. Think of the first line of the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven." Similarly to how we call out to our Father in heaven, we call upon our own biological fathers for help. Whether that's when we get a flat tire, whether we are having difficulty in school, or whether we just need someone to bounce an idea off of, we seek the wisdom of our fathers. We also often talk about our founding fathers, the great men who shaped our nation: Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton. We call them our founding fathers. That means that they provided foundational leadership. They provided the template for this great nation: how to run it, how to protect it, how to make it flourish. We, the children of America, look up to these founding fathers, and we honor them for the patriarchal role they had. Over time, there have been many great quotes about fathers and fatherhood. Umberto Eco said, "I believe that what we become depends on what our fathers teach us at odd moments, when they aren't trying to teach us. We are formed by little scraps of wisdom." Prevost Abbey said, "The heart of a father is the masterpiece of nature." Jennifer Williamson said, "A father's love is forever imprinted on his child's heart." And I like this one because it has no known attribute: Dad, a son's first hero and a daughter's first love. The Talmud even says, "When you teach your son, you teach your son's son." And Ann Getty said, "Any man can be a father, but it takes someone special to be a dad." I also like this one from the late Tim Russert: "The older I get, the smarter my father seems to get." And maybe my favorite of all, from Pam Brown: "Dads are most ordinary men turned by love into heroes, adventurers, storytellers, and singers of song." This one is an obvious favorite of mine because as a singer and songwriter, I'm able to express myself through music. But if we're being honest, not all dads are able to express themselves the way artists can. Some are tight-lipped. Older generations sometimes confused empathy or compassion with weakness. And that's why I like this quote from Denzel Washington: "The strongest, toughest men all have compassion. They're not heartless and cold. You have to be a man enough to have compassion, to care about people and about your children." If you remember the movie Big Fish with Albert Finney, Ewan McGregor, and Billy Crudup, the plot of the movie centers around a man realizing the end of his life. He has become disjointed from his son because the old man always told tall tales about his life, many of which had so much grandeur that as he got older, the son started disbelieving many of these stories. When the call comes that the dad has been hospitalized and the days seem to be getting shorter and shorter, the dad calls upon his son to tell the story of his life. And his son has trouble with it because he has kind of tuned him out. Let's take a look at the scene.
Dad? Hey, Dad. Hey, you want me to get the nurse? Huh? What do you want? What can I do? Can I get, you want some water? You want a bit of water? The river?
Tell me how it happens.
How what happens? You mean what you saw in the eye? that story, Dad. You never told me that one. Okay, hey, okay, I'll try. I need your help. Tell me how it starts.
Like this.
Okay. So it's in the morning, and you and I are in the hospital, and I'd fallen asleep in the chair, and I'd wake up, and I see you. Somehow you're better. Dad? You're different. Dad.
Let's get out of here.
And I say, Dad, you're in no condition.
Get that wheelchair. Hurry up, we haven't much time. Once we get off this floor, we're in the clear.
And we get in the wheelchair.
Faster!
Like we're escaping from the hospital, and
Well, what are you doing?
past Dr. Bennett, who tries to slow us down, and
Security! Stop them!
we're flying down the hall. Orderly after orderly is chasing us, and Mom and Josephine are at the end of the hall.
No time to explain. Stall them!
So you see, just in the fact that we are our Father's descendants, we have to carry on their story, whatever that may be, the good, the bad, the funny, the unfortunate. And we are all products of those stories. For many of us here in America, that may date back to the Mayflower and those early colonial settlers. Some of our fathers are and were pioneers, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, pastors, plumbers, carpenters, chefs, tech innovators, bartenders, servers, and janitors. I'm reminded of our very own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio's story as an immigrant from Cuba whose dad worked as a bartender so that his son could have a better life. Considering that Marco became a senator and now Secretary of State, certainly his father paved that path for him. I also think back to Abraham Lincoln and Alexander Hamilton, two American patriarchs. Both of them lost children during pivotal moments of their lives and bore the weight of this country on their shoulders. If you've seen the Broadway show Hamilton, you know that Alexander Hamilton was an orphan. And after he died, his wife carried on his story by starting New York's first private orphanage, which still exists today, known by the name Graham. These are the makings of a legacy and what gets passed on. Today, I want to focus on what a father's legacy is, because it's far more than helping you tie your shoe or teaching you how to ride a bike. A father passes on qualities that are often unspoken and unseen, values and principles that transcend time. And of course, we have to be honest enough to say that many times, fathers' mistakes are ours to learn from. Oftentimes, we have to be the dads that our fathers were not, especially if they were absent. However, the Bible tells us to honor our father and mother, and there doesn't seem to be much exception to that commandment. So I'd like to bring that kind of honor to today's special about the legacy of fathers. If you could view your family tree and follow all the branches back, you would see a visual representation of that legacy. You can trace your family name back. Recently, I went to visit my own father's grave in Memphis, and in that same cemetery are the headstones of some of my great-grandfathers, one of whom was a surgeon during the Civil War, treating patients on both sides of the conflict. These are reminders of who we are. It's part of our own story. So I think in order to really learn who we are as individuals, we have to look to our fathers and great-grandfathers, where there are some insights and pearls of wisdom. We become actual vessels of legacies because we received the legacies of our fathers. And now it is up to us to carry those legacies onward, both in how we live our own lives and also in what we pass on to our own children. Recently, I became a father for the first time, and it has been incredibly special to see in my son what my dad must have seen in me at this age. And while my father is not around anymore to be able to pass on certain things to my son, it will be up to me to do that, whether that's in teaching him how to fish, how to mind his manners, and how to handle his first heartbreak. And I want to also acknowledge those men out there who have acted as fatherly figures to others. The Big Brothers Big Sisters program comes to mind. It is tragic, but we do face a fatherlessness crisis in this country. Kids all too often have to grow up on their own without guidance. And that's a path that can lead to a world of challenges and pain. So today, in this special about a father's legacy, we will examine how fathers pass down a legacy, which often translates to many branches of the generational tree. I will speak with fathers who have some incredible stories and what they themselves want to pass on to their children. So come along on the journey of a father's legacy. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to A Father's Legacy with your host, Beau Davidson.
Welcome back to A Father's Legacy. In examining what a father's legacy is, we look at elements such as protection, guidance, wisdom, and being a spiritual beacon. The absence of these elements can have detrimental effects on a child. Now, few people understand this better than Dr. Ben Carson, who has been a father in every sense of the word as a dad to 3 sons, and also renowned for his work as a neurosurgeon. Dr. Carson, it is great to have you with me for this Father's Day special. I really appreciate it, you taking your time. Firstly, I want to talk about fathers in a foundational sense. What does the father provide that is so essential to the children that he has raised?
Well, it's a critical position. You know, the original family that God created had a father and a mother, and they had separate roles, but they were one. And the father provides stability in the family. He provides protection. He provides role modeling. All the things that are really essential for a child to develop well. You know, we have a scholarship program, Carson Scholars Fund, all across the country. And these recognize children who achieve at the highest academic levels and also demonstrate humanitarian service. And almost all of them come from intact nuclear families with a father present. That doesn't mean that it can't be done without that, you know, my own example being that. But what I had were a number of male role models. My mother made sure that we were placed in the presence of men who achieved and were good role models. And it makes all the difference in the world in terms of how a child turns out.
It really does. Role models are so essential, I think. And Dr. Carson, in a spiritual sense, our fathers are often our spiritual leaders, or at least the Bible tells us that they ought to be. What is it that a father, do you think, must show, both in word and deed, that provides the best spiritual leadership?
Well, the father shows character. He doesn't just talk about it, but he demonstrates it in his life, in the way that he treats other people, in the way that he handles business, in the way that he leads his family. Being able to pray with your children and show them that it's more than just words. When my kids were growing up, as a family, we prayed together. Everybody said a prayer. And it was a very spiritually bonding experience. And they have continued to do that and to be people of faith throughout their lives. All three of my sons got married in 2011. They all have children and happy families. And one of the things that's really critical is that fathers must be models of how you treat your wife. And if they grow up seeing you respecting your wife and honoring your wife and having fun with your wife, that's what they do also. And for daughters, it's very important for daughters to have fathers, because that father can show her how to be respectful of women, how to care for women, how to touch women in the appropriate way. And if she sees that from her father, she's much less likely to pick the wrong person for her husband.
Yeah, it's amazing, Dr. Carson, when you think about how children are like sponges, and you're so right. My pastor told me, the best way that you can teach your son is by loving his mother and demonstrating that as an example. That this exemplary modeling you're talking about, I think, is so critical to both son and daughter. Dr. Carson, we also know that there is a fatherlessness crisis in this country, and you likely saw so much of this crisis firsthand as HUD secretary. Tell me what the primary root cause of this is and how you see the absence of a father impact the home.
Well, when I was growing up, it wasn't nearly as bad as it is now. I remember we were the only people on the block that didn't have an intact family. But it's gone to the point now where it's normal to have a home without a father in it. And women have no shame whatsoever of having children out of wedlock now. It's become normal. But it's not normal. It's not the natural flow of things. And interestingly enough, if you look at some of the writings of some Marxists and communists, they talk about the best way to disrupt America is by pulling apart their families, destroying the cohesiveness, the necessity of fathers. That started about 20 or 30 years ago, when you would see the father always being made fun of in the sitcoms and television movies. And, I think there's some evil forces behind that, and we really need to combat that in a very, very serious way.
Yeah, there's spiritual forces, there are political forces, and as you said, Marxist forces as well. Well, let's talk about the antidote to that kind of in a way. Dr. Carson, let's go back to our founding fathers for a moment. They provided such exceptional vision and leadership, and I'd love for you, in your own words, to talk about what values and principles our founding fathers gave us.
Well, our founding fathers were very, very smart people. They looked at every governmental system that had ever existed in the history of the world, and they extracted the good things and they excluded the bad things. They were eclectics. And they were also people of faith. A lot of people like to say they didn't have any faith in God or in the Bible. But if you go back and you actually look at their writings, you see that that's not true. And particularly our first president, George Washington, had a man of tremendous faith. Those are critical building blocks for a strong society, because if you have a strong family, you have strong communities, and you have strong communities, you have strong countries. And that, I think, was one of the reasons that our country accelerated so quickly. We went from a bunch of ragtag militiamen to the pinnacle of the world in record time. No one has done that before. And it's not a coincidence. It's because of the values that were imparted to our people. And those values came largely through the role of fathers and families, fathers who believed in the principles espoused by Judeo-Christian ideology.
Yeah, it's amazing how revisionists want to try to change that, but obviously we know, as you just said, by the writings of our founding fathers, what the real truth is. Well, Doctor, for those who grew up in homes with absent fathers or abusive fathers, how does a child pick up those pieces and not repeat the mistakes of the past? Or how can he or she become the parent, perhaps, that they never had?
Well, I would be deceitful if I said it was easy. It's very difficult, particularly if you have a single mom who's trying to raise her kids without a father in place. But one of the things that I've noticed that really works is when people volunteer to fill that role. When you look around in your environment and you see that mother struggling, why not offer to take her son to a movie or to a picnic with your family? Start doing some modeling and helping them out. It makes a huge difference. And I know, there were males in my environment my mother recognized as good people, and she wanted us to be around them. I remember my high school band teacher, for instance. He recognized that I was growing up without a father and tried to fill in many ways. And when I was offered a scholarship to Interlochen, which is people who know music know how significant that
Absolutely.
is, he said, Benny, don't take it. Even though it would have been a big feather in his cap to have a student go there, he said, you're going to be a great doctor, and I don't want you to get distracted by something else. He was really looking out for my welfare.
That's so interesting. Well, I only have to take some umbrage, Dr. Carson, because I did pursue a musical education. But then again, here I am talking to you, so I have to say that going to Northwestern and getting a musical education, also political science, thank God I remembered to do that. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for that. I actually pursued so I could understand about the government and politics. It's interesting, though, you mentioned that music teacher and said, I don't want distractions. It is so important to have someone, some male figure, some patriarchal figure who can guide you. And as it turns out, looks like he was right. You did become one of the most special and unique neurosurgeons that probably ever existed here in the United States. Did it take a certain amount of personal fortitude to pursue that path without that father? Were there other people along the way that kind of guided you and said, Benny, this is what this is where your gift is?
Well, honestly, the thing that really helped me the most was having a mother who would not accept excuses. And anytime we made an excuse, out of her mouth came the poem, Yourself to Blame. And I think that made a tremendous difference. And I understood the importance of having someone like that to keep you held to some type of standard and some kind of responsibility. Yeah. And I tried to do that for my sons because I was extraordinarily busy as a pediatric neurosurgeon. And I came to the conclusion that I cannot be done with everything I have to do at 7 o'clock and go home and spend time with my kids, or I cannot be done at 11 o'clock and not get the chance to see them. And I also was doing a lot of speaking all around the world, and I made a requirement that my family go with me. So the kids had frequent flyer cards to every airline. They got to travel all across the world, and we were able to spend a lot of time together. Otherwise, they would have been saying to their mom, that strange guy was here again last night.
It's because you made time. It's because you made time, and I think that's so important for fathers to do. Well, just some final thoughts, Dr. Carson, as we leave here our time about what a father's legacy should be.
Well, I think the father's legacy should be the protector and the role model, the comforter and the provider of the family. and should be someone that everybody looks forward to being with all the time.
Agreed, 100%. Well, thank you, Dr. Carson, so much for your time, your talent, and your fatherly wisdom. Thank you, sir.
And happy Father's Day to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Back to A Father's Legacy with your host, Beau Davidson.
Welcome back to A Father's Legacy. Oftentimes when we face obstacles in life, we wonder why. But for the most resilient among us, we don't dwell on why, but rather what. As in, what will I do about this hand that life has dealt me? Jimmy Davis was dumped at an orphanage as a child by his profligate father, whom he never saw again. He went on to get educated and snuck into the Army underage to eventually become a decorated World War II officer who fought the Battle of the Bulge. His story is penned into the book, An American Hero, One Man's Legacy of Fatherhood and Faith, written by Jimmy's son, Tom Davis, who joins me now. Tom, happy Father's Day to you, and I got to tell you, what a story this is.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, hero.
And that's what we'll get into because, you know, you're the absolute perfect person, I think, to speak about in talking about Father's Day and a father's legacy. I want to start where my intro started, which is your father was dumped at an orphanage and he never saw his father again. Take me there and tell me what circumstances led to that.
Well, he was born on Hanging Dog Mountain in North Carolina. Nobody's ever heard of Hanging Dog Mountain.
I haven't.
Anyway, that's where he was born. And his mother died at a very early age through childbirth with her final child. And after that, my grandfather was a gambler and he had inherited a lot of money, so he was wealthy at that time. And anyway, so he was a gambler though, and he gambled away pretty much all his money. And as soon as when my grandmother died, he took all three boys. He had three boys and a girl and two girls. Took all three boys and dumped them into an orphanage. Put them off, took them out of the car, put them up there, gave them to the orphanage, and drove off. Never saw them again.
Wow, I can't imagine doing that, but just sounds like dereliction of duty, basically, as a father.
Pretty much, yeah.
But then your dad didn't let that get him down. He was a resilient guy. He educated himself. Tell me about how he snuck into the Army and underage.
Well, he first of all, he succeeded as an athlete, and he was a boxer and a quarterback for the high school football team. And then he got an offer for a scholarship to Duke. His brother went straight to the Army and joined the Army. He became a shoe cobbler. He repaired shoes, shined shoes, stuff like that. He got really tired of that, and he said, I'm going to the Army too. So he was but he was 17, so he went to the Army and told him he was 18.
He lied about it.
Yeah, he lied about his age, but a lot of people did back in those days, and they had no way to catch it. So that he went in buck private, went all the way through the Battle of the Bulge. From the time World War II started, he even ended up at the end of the war by going in and cleaning up all the things in Germany, the horrible wrath that the Germans created with the Jews.
So tell me now where your mother comes into the picture and how you came into the picture during all this process.
He met my mother after he got out of the war. He went to a little town in Georgia, and then he finally ended up in Cedartown, Georgia, where he became a jeweler, or was an assistant store manager in a jewelry store in Toccoa, and then he moved to a manager of the jewelry store in Cedartown, Georgia. That's where he met my mother, and they became Catholic.
Okay.
Because my mother was a real stout Catholic. Her whole family was Catholic. And she said, well, if we're going to get married, you're going to have to be Catholic. He said, I'm all in.
Oh, yeah.
So he was a really religious guy.
Well, let's talk about that, because it sounds like it was your mom that led him maybe in some ways to his faith, that you got to be Catholic. How did that affect your life growing up in terms of how you even found your own faith?
Well, I mean, I was an altar boy from the time I was 7 till I was 18. I mean, I learned Latin and everything, but I became Catholic too, and I learned a lot about the Catholic religion. Some good, some not so good, but I still claim to be a Catholic, but I don't. I have my own relationship with God.
Correct. It's about a relationship.
It is.
A religion.
It is.
But that's important, though, I think, that your father passed this on to you, because my father did the same for me. And I think about the attributes that my dad passed on to me. Some good, maybe some not always perfect.
Exactly.
But let's talk about the attributes and the unique gifts that your dad passed to you.
Oh, geez, everything. I mean, he taught me how to sell. I get a little teary out of this stuff. He taught me how to sell. He taught me how to be a man. He taught me how to take care of myself, fighting, whatever. If I needed to fight, he never encouraged me to fight, but he taught me how to protect myself.
Yeah.
And but he taught me everything and how to treat people. He always said, if you always treat people the way you want to be treated, you'll be a winner.
Yeah. Do unto others as they would have them do unto you. No, it's, look, I get emotional too, Tom, because, and I think I was telling you this before we started, that, my own father passed away in this terrible accident that we had about 4 or 5 years ago in the car. And it was like he kind of knew something was about to happen. And that's where faith comes in. That's where a lot of people say, well, how did, this tragic thing? I mean, your dad was how old when he died?
53.
And mine was 71. Those are relatively young ages.
I'm 71.
Yeah, but the principle applies that no matter when they go, because we never know when that will be, they have to pass on a legacy to us, because they're trying to make our lives better than theirs.
Exactly.
So tell me what he did for you in terms of, you mentioned some of the qualities and gifts that you got from him. How has that made you you have a son now?
Yeah.
And how has that affected you in your father?
I've got 3 boys and a girl from my first marriage, and then I've adopted a special needs person. I met him when he was 29. Now he's 63, and I've taken care of him for all these years. And he was at every function that we always had for Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that stuff for my kids. And then also I've adopted my wife's son from another marriage. And so I've got 5 boys, a special needs guy, and 4 boys, special needs guy, and that's it.
Well, it sounds to me like even in bringing a special needs child your way, that you feel that fatherhood should be even beyond what's biological.
Yes.
That's important.
Help other people.
Right. Is that something your dad taught you?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Let's talk about now with your sons and all your children. Now, what is it about your dad's story, since he's not around to tell it? Because I have to think about this with my own son. What about his story do you tell them in learning about who their grandpa was?
I've got so many stories. One of my favorite stories is when I was sitting at the diamond counter, because I used to love to go to the jewelry store and work. And I was sitting at the diamond counter, and I'm sitting there, and this guy walks in overalls, and we're in Cartersville, Georgia now, right? So it's in the hick.
It's the same.
So this guy walks in, he's got muddy boots, overalls, walks in, and he just keeps walking. And I just nodded my head, and he said, he turned to me and says, "Your dad here?" And he said, "Yeah, he's in the back." And he just kept walking, and so after and my dad walked real fast, so he came walking out of the back room when he saw the guy. Came out. He sold that guy $1,500 worth of jewelry, because it was his wife's birthday. And my father sold all that jewelry, and I said, and when he was leaving, he pointed at me and said, "Back room." And I said, whenever he said back room, I was in trouble. So I go to the back room. I said, "What's wrong, Dad? What did I do wrong this time?" And he said, "It's not what you did, son. It's what you didn't do." He said, "Do you know who that guy was that walked in this door?" I said, "No." I said, "He looked like I don't know." He said, "Well, that was the richest man in Cartersville." And he said, you overestimated who he wasn't.
Yeah.
And he said, "If you ever do that again, I'll kick your ass and shove you out the door." And I said, "I'm sorry, Daddy." He said, "Well, you just don't do that. You treat everybody like you want to be treated. And if you ever read a book by its cover again, I'll kick your ass."
Yeah, and that's true. You cannot judge a person by what they're wearing, what they come in with, because like you said, you never know who you're dealing with. And I think that's why when we think about wait staff, people when you're in a restaurant, you have to look at those people and treat them with dignity and respect.
Exactly. Every time.
What they're doing.
Treat people like you want to be treated.
Well, Tom, we have a fatherlessness crisis in this country. There's people who, dads who, dereliction of duty. Sounds like, unfortunately, your grandfather was that way. He just up and left.
Yeah.
So what do we do about that? How do you assess that now, just in terms of the state of our nation and what fathers should be doing to step up to the plate?
It's horrendous that we don't have more fathers. That it's like nobody teaches anybody anything anymore. What happened? What has happened to that? I'm really at a loss. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But all I know is I had a great one.
Right.
And I wish everybody else did.
Yeah, and I like to say we don't get to choose our dads, because that's just but we might have been matched with the perfect one. Yeah. You know what I mean? So this is a great book, An American Hero, One Man's Legacy of Fatherhood and Faith. Legacy is so important, Tom, and I want to give you the opportunity just in our final minute here to just talk about legacy and your dad, and because your children's children, there will be people long after we're gone that will remember things about him. So I'd like you to just take a minute and talk about what your dad, you think, may pass, not just has passed on to you, but what may be talked about generations to come.
I think the book's going to help it a lot, because the book covers pretty much everything that he did and he didn't do. And he never took care of himself, but he always take care of everybody else. That's the way I feel like I'm sitting sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's the way it should be. If you're not selfish, you try to help people. And if you do that all the time, it always comes back to you.
Yeah, pay it forward, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think this should inspire a lot of people to maybe write their own books about their dads, because if you codify it that way, then it'll be forever.
This is what 10 years in the making.
10 years in the making.
Yeah,
well, as my pastor likes to say, how do you spell love? And it's T-I-M-E. About our time.
It is time.
Our time, isn't it?
Time.
Because it's something we can never get back, but it's something that it's the most precious currency.
It is precious.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today on your father, his legacy, his impact on you, and for generations to come. So thank you, sir, and happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
It's very nice talking to you.
We'll be right back.
I think you drove past me. Don't like that.
Hey, it's the team.
That was pretty good, dude.
Hey, thanks, man. So what are some of the qualities in your kids that you see you and Sam, like, what of yours do you think you put in them that you can actually manifest?
I'll tell you what, they're all children of God. I mean, they are. My son, my oldest son Braden, and my daughter Octavia have been really studying religions, and now they've become Catholic. And Braden's actually gone through everything you got to do in the Catholic world.
What is it? What are the let's say if you had to pick 3 essential qualities you want you 2 boys and your girl to have long after you're gone?
Faith, obviously. I don't think there ever was a
Thank God.
I think it's that I am three thing. You know, God is always first, family is second, and yourself third. But it's, to me, I want to make sure that they always find patience. We live in a very fast-paced world now. It's a very impatient world, and everything's, people don't. There's no, we have this amazing technology, and yet it's made us less social.
Yeah.
Made us more just stuck in our own little worlds, and we just, when you go to the airport, you just look around. Everybody's looking around their phone. I'm guilty of that too. And it's just, the world has changed so much that way, in the anger. And that's why I tell my kids, you guys have to fight through such a lot. But what I like about their generation, their age group right now, COVID woke a lot of those kids up. So our government lied to us. They lied to us. These bastards took away my last 2 years in sports in high school. I mean, I can't imagine if that would happen to me, because that was such a big part of my life. So I just want my kids to always, find that patience, keep that drive going, and keep faith, keep God number one in your heart. Yeah, it's great. Might break a little bit left to right. I think if you land it right in here, I think if you land on, it's going to roll by. Depends if you got spin on it or not. I always call them like shooting a free throw. That is a really good shot.
I did what you told me to do.
And a good line too. That was breaking, coming back in this way. I think that's a birdie, boys.
Nice job.
Dude, that is a wonderful up and down. That's awesome, man.
When I think of like what my dad taught me, just in terms of watching him, and not always necessarily what he said, but he'd send me proverbs occasionally to email and stuff like that, and be a protector, a guider, spiritual guide, spiritual beacon. Obviously you have to provide for your family as best you can, especially if the mom is not working. Our mom was a public school teacher for 40 years. So they were both working, But my mom was a public school teacher, and she put me in private schools. She didn't trust our system.
Even back then.
Yeah.
But it's gotten worse.
It's certainly gotten worse.
To ask somebody that is agnostic on the fence, might be easier to say, just come to my church. But like an atheist, they're not, I don't want to go to church. There's church people there. But if he goes, hey, you want to go see a movie? That's a different thing. I think it's easier to get than that. I get stopped. I don't get stopped because of Hercules or Andromeda. I get stopped almost all the time because of God's Not Dead, What If, Soul Surfer. That's what people stop me for, which is great.
Because it moves them.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 140.
Whatever you feel, you're 140.
That looks good.
Little pull, but the distance should be pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's great.
I think I'll take that one.
Great.
Dude, that is a good ball. A lot of times on those kind of shots, you and I are not Phil Mickelson, okay? So a lot of shots I learned from Butch Harmon. I used to live on the Real Sigler golf course.
Yeah.
Where Butch is. Butch was the Tigers coach for years, and Adam Scott and those guys. Shots like that, when you got nothing in front of you, you take a 7, 8, or 9 iron, just bump it. Like, it's a bump and run. Well, it's like, that's British Open golf. Maybe he's better than the. If anything, you just need to go to the range once a week just for zen.
No, you're acting like my dad.
But just go to
the range, and I was just like, and then I get callous.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, if you got, like, when I had time to kill when I was in LA, I was member of course all the time. But if I had time to kill and I was in LA, there was 2 golf courses sort of in the Studio City area.
Yeah.
And if I had 2 hours to kill, I would just go there and putt around, and just, instead of driving all the way back home again, I just do that. And it was just, to me, there's a sort of, like, even at my house, I go there and we got a pickleball and basketball court. I'll go out there by myself and just shoot hoops for a little while, half-hour day, because it's my relax. I used to be good at that game.
What about your boys now?
Look at you got 15 yards on me. You're killing me.
All right.
So this one, you might have.
Well, some in the way.
You might have some, but you got one more there.
Some loft on it.
But you got, or I'd still at least a 200-yard club and aim for the trap on the left. That tree's not gonna be in your way for that.
Okay.
Great shot.
Lost it again.
Right,
Okay.
straight, dead at it, dead at the trap. Went over the top of the tree, left corner of the top of the tree with no problem.
Oh yeah. So about your kids, do your boys play golf as well?
Only my 21-year-old Shane. I can't get Braden to play. He loves working out, and he just doesn't. But he's got scoliosis, so it kind of hurts his back after a while. Shane, my 21-year-old, just chills. He's 310-yard drives and stuff now, but he's another one I can't get him to practice.
Yeah.
Dude, you got to practice.
I know, people don't want to do it.
I think that's going to be me there.
Mm-hmm. So I should be a little right of you. Sure.
I thought you were more left.
Oh, you're probably right. Yeah, because of the tree. You're right. Maybe on the.
Let's see.
Oh my gosh.
That's exactly what I would do.
I don't know where it went. Where'd it end up?
On the backside. I mean, you're off the green, but it rolled off the back.
Okay, yeah, I sculled it a little bit. I lost it in the sun right away.
Didn't give it enough.
Yeah, but see how much that breaks?
Yeah.
So I was saying you really had to be, you almost had to be right off this line. I don't know why they do that ridge like that, but that looks like a good putt.
No, it's gonna tail up right.
Wow, was it slow? No, man, in 2 weeks that putt would have rolled down to there. No, still, it was a pretty good putt.
Daily. They hurry away from the breakfast table, off to the arena, which is sometimes called an office or a workshop. There, with calloused, practiced hands, they tackle the dragon with 3 heads: weariness, work, and monotony. And they never quite win the fight, but they never give up. Knights in shining armor, fathers in shiny trousers, there's little difference as they march away to each workday. Fathers make bets with insurance companies about who will live the longest. Though they know the odds, they keep right on betting. Even as the odds get higher and higher, they keep right on betting more and more. And one day they lose. But fathers enjoy an earthly immortality, and the bet's paid off to the part of him he leaves behind. I don't know where fathers go when they die, but I have an idea that after a good rest, wherever it is, he won't be happy unless there's work to do. He won't just sit on a cloud and wait for the girl he's loved and the children she bore. He'll be busy there too, repairing the stairs, oiling the gates, improving the streets, smoothing the way. As I mentioned earlier, as an artist, I have the great pleasure of putting my thoughts into music and lyrics. And I want to close this special with a song I wrote about fathers called "The Man I Want to Be." I hope you enjoy it.
You taught me how to cast a rod and throw my first touchdown. You showed me how to tie my shoes so I would not fall down. You made sure that I knew to say yes sir and yes ma'am. You taught me how to be a boy and how to be a man. Some say Papa, some say Daddy, some just say Paul. But who you are is what I see. You're the only one I've got. I just call you Dad, but I'm sure the world can see that no matter how old I am, you're the man I want to be. I tied my tie in the mirror just like you taught me to. I shaved my peach fuzz with that Bic just like I saw you do. And when I hit the gas in that Chevy, you said, son, slow down. I guess I wanted to grow up as fast as time allowed. Some say Papa, some say Daddy, some just say Paul.